morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I'm afraid I'm going to have to do that thing where I come out and go, yay, I was right. You see, ladies and gentlemen, just a couple of days ago, I made a video showing you that the Scizor-GX that we've had for a while might now be pretty gosh darn good, because we've just gone and got ourselves Island Challenge Amulet. Well, the good news is that someone over in Japan has gone, oh, I've had the same idea, except I've won a tournament with it. Here's my tournament winning deck. Now, look, we know that Japan is playing a slightly different format, but as I've said in somewhere close to 1 billion videos at this stage, I'm only showing you decks that I'm either saying very clearly are expanded, or will work in our format as far as I'm concerned, and I think this one will work rather nicely in our format indeed. There is one card that I'm a little bit sad that we're missing, but given that it's being played literally as a one-of, I really don't think it's a huge problem. So starting off then, we're building around Scizor-GX. The ability says if it's got 100 HP or less remaining, you do 80 more damage. And then we've got 1 metal, 1 colourless energy, 80 damage. During your next turn, you take 30 less. And 3 colourless energy GX attack, 100 damage. But if you're against an evolution Pokemon, you do 200 damage. But of course, if you've got 100 HP or less remaining, that will be 280 damage. And this seems like a good time to remind you about the Scizor-GX trick, so to speak. You attach the new tool Island Challenge Amulet. That reduces your maximum HP by 100, but means you give up 1 less prize when KO'd by damage from an opponent's attack. You then attach a Rainbow Energy, which does 10 damage. Now all of a sudden you've got 100 HP remaining, and now your ability is activated and you're doing the extra damage. If it all sounds pretty gosh darn good, it probably should, because it probably is. And stop me if you've heard this one before, but our main partner here is Silvally, and you should get used to this, right? Silvally is going to be played a lot as we go through. It is a phenomenal new card, which lets you draw until you've got 5 cards in hand once during your turn, and does 120 for 2 colourless energy. Make no mistake about it, Silvally is here to stay, and Silvally is being played in this deck. It won't be the last one. Now, we do actually see a couple of memory cards being played here that turn Silvally into a certain type of Pokemon. Now, the one that we can totally use here is Water Memory. Water Memory turns you into a water type, really good if you're facing down fire decks like Reshiram and Charizard. The downside here is that this deck also plays Psychic Memory for those pesky Mewtwo and Mew decks, and unfortunately Psychic Memory has rotated out. It sucks, but it's gone. It's only played as a one-of. You should be able to beat them without it, but I do have to mention that is the one card in this deck that I look at and go, really wish I could do better. But hey-ho, it's not the end of the world. Now, in terms of other Pokemon here, we are playing 1 copy of the Creation Trio, that being Arceus and Dialga and Palkia. That is a new Tag Team GX. It's got a lovely GX attack that for 1 Metal Energy, for the rest of the game you do 30 more damage for all of your attacks. And for an extra Water Energy, you also take 1 extra prize every time you take a KO. It's got a really nice attack for water, metal, colourless. It does 150 and attaches 3 basic energy from your deck to your Pokemon in any way you like, but that is going to be slightly difficult to pay with this particular deck list. We have the new Oricorio GX. That's the one whereby if you had a Pokemon KO during your opponent's previous turn, you can search for free cards. This is going to be a one-off in a huge amount of decks, just like it is here. Get used to it, frankly. You're going to see a ridiculous amount of this card. We also see one copy of Mew to protect your bench from bench damage, and we see one copy of Ditto Prism Star because you're playing a bunch of Stage 1's Ditto Prism Star becomes amazing because it can evolve into any of them. But we also see here one copy of non-GX Scizor. To be precise, it is a non-GX Scizor that came around in Lost Thunder. Now the ability here, it takes 30 less from attacks. And it does have 120 HP, so a little bit of bulk here. But also for 1 metal, 1 colourless energy, 60 damage. But if the active Pokemon of your opponent has any special energy attached, you do 130. It's just a really nice non-GX attacker to help even up the prize trade. Now the list you'll see does have a couple of Tapu Lele, but you could easily just replace them with Dedenne like we did when the rotation happened, and you don't lose all that much, so it's really not the end of the world. In terms of energy, we do see a bunch of metal energy, fairly obviously, but we also see some rainbow energy here, which largely is going to be coming in for the creation trio so that you can have a water energy to use a GX attack, because being able to take an extra prize every time you take a KO is frankly absolutely huge and brilliant and wonderful. You don't really have any other colour. I mean, it allows you to use Oricorio's attack, but you're just not going to want to, if I'm honest with you. Now, in terms of trainer cards here, we do have some specific metal tricks. So, one of the things we've got here right off the bat is Metal Frying Pan. It reduces damage you take by 30, while also removing your weakness. And we also see Metal Core Barrier, which reduces the amount of damage you take by 70, but only lasts for a single turn. But both Scizor-GX and Scizor take less damage from attacks anyway, so this all adds up very quickly to mean it's very difficult for you to be KO'd. We also see a couple copies of Mount Coronet here, which just allow you to recover your metal energy from the discard pile. Though we do also see a couple copies of Chaotic Swell. That is the new stadium that came around in Cosmic Eclipse, which it's basically a counter stadium, alright? What happens is that if your opponent plays a stadium to replace it, that new stadium just gets discarded without actually doing anything. It's kind of fun. Obviously, we've got Island Challenge Amulet, as we mentioned earlier. It is a fairly important part of the puzzle. Speaking of important parts of the puzzle, red and blue. You see, one of the issues we've got with Scizor is that it is a 2 energy attacker, and we don't actually have any energy acceleration whatsoever. Well, that's where red and blue comes in. Red and blue comes in, and you've got to be able to evolve anyway, but it lets you search your deck for a GX Pokemon that evolves from one of your Pokemon in play, evolve it up, and then search your deck for 2 basic energy and attach them. That sounds pretty good by me. And speaking of new supporters, we also see Professor Oak's setup. Lets you search for 3 basic Pokemon of different types and put them straight onto the bench. Now the good news is Scizor evolves from Scyther, who is a grass Pokemon. We've then got Ditto, which is colourless, but Silvally evolves from a colourless Pokemon. So your third one is basically going to be Mew or Oricorio. You're still going to be getting 3 basics out here. It's kind of awkward because you would like to get 2 colourless Pokemon, but you can't have it all, unfortunately. Boo, hiss, etc. And the only other slightly weird part of this deck is that it's actually playing a couple copies of Judge. And essentially here, this is a deck where you're trying not to get KO'd. So you've got all your tricks to take a bit less damage and to take extra prizes, but having a bit of disruption there is quite good as well. Some other decks will be able to overwhelm this, so your goal here, be taking extra prizes, be doing extra damage, be giving up a bit less damage, and then play Judge for a little bit of disruption to help you out. The rest of the deck is fairly straightforward. We've got some Cynthia and Lily because they're the best draw cards in the game at the moment. We've got Cherish Ball for a little bit of Pokemon search and Switch, so you've got the right Pokemon in the active. There are a couple odd little cards out there like Guzma and Nest Ball, which we would rather have, but honestly, none of the cards in here make a huge difference. The only card which I do think is a moderately big loss is Psychic Memory, but if Psychic Memory was that crucial to the success of the deck, it wouldn't be played as a one-off. I expect this deck to be fully playable the second Cosmic Eclipse is legal for tournament play, and I think it's pretty gosh darned awesome. But I'd very much like to know what you think about it, so maybe you go ahead and let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.